Good afternoon, everybody. I want to thank you for being with us today on this webinar titled Leading with Agility and Resilience. My name is Jamal Saeed, and I'm going to be with you for the next hour, probably an hour and 5 minutes, and probably less, depending on how the flow of the slides come along. We have practiced these flow, but sometimes, we have certain things, certain questions that we like to answer. Other than that, I want to thank you for being with us. Mona, welcome back. Mubarak, Rabi', Talal, Taysir. Taysir, thank you for being with us. Benta, Mireille, that's fantastic. We have some very strong presence today. Mishal, that's wonderful. Mubarak, I'm so happy to have you with us, guys. So it's an interesting topic, and it's very relevant to what we're going through today. And the reason that I say it's relevant because, we are still in the middle of a crisis. Some of us are getting out of a crisis, and some of us are getting into it or reliving it again. So it's not easy times, that's for sure. But these are the times that require, to some extent, some agility and resilience. And let's go ahead and jump into the topic. But before I do that, I want to wish everybody that you are doing well, wherever you are, wherever you're calling from. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're coping well. And I hope that you are managing your way around. Again, these are not normal times. And but I hope you're learning a lot. For me, as a consultant working for Merck, one of the key things I always advise and I always coach people who join these webinars: always learn as much as you can, learn from the circumstances, adjust, adapt, because this is the name of the game today. Let's go ahead and jump into our presentation, and I want to make sure that we are spending time on the content. Typically, I like to take you through a couple of slides that cover the company, who we are, and then I speak a little bit about myself. However, just to let you know, my in one of the slides I'm going to showcase my email. So if you like the presentation and you like to get a copy of it, I always send it via PDF. So in the copy of the presentation you will have my email, and I also have my I have my email, but I also have my contact details. So please reach out and let us know how we can help you. Now, I understand that Mireille is asking whether we started. Yes, we did. And also we have a question from Mireille. I think she's having difficulty with hearing us. So let's see. Anyway, let's go ahead and start. So let me go into this one over here. So as you can see, this is my name, Jamal Saeed, and I'm a partner with Meirc. The email is over there. Take it, note it down, right? jsaeed@meirc.com. Toward the end, if you like to have a copy, I can send you a PDF, and you can, go through the slide as well and the slides as well. And if you have any further questions, please reach out. Typically, these webinars, they reflect courses that we give as well. Usually the course is 3 to 5 days. Sometimes 3 means virtual learning. We do it on a virtual learning basis. If it is face-to-face, we give it 5 days. Some people like 5 days because it's interaction, very heavy interaction, lots of wonderful exercises. So the main thing here is, again, we're here to help you, expand your knowledge, your skills. And this is one of the key messages of Merck. We work on your knowledge. So if you have any organizational needs, do reach out for us, and we'd be more than happy to talk to you. That being said, let me go ahead and start. So a little bit about the company. As I promised, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I know we have a few slides to go through, and I don't want to keep you more than needed. So here's the company. We're currently headquartered in Dubai since 1991, Business Bay. We also have a sister company called Plus Training. So as you can see, we cover your needs on both sides, the soft skills as well as the technical side. So please reach out for us, and we'll be more than happy to talk to you. We have a wonderful team who can talk to your needs, and we take it from there. What does Merck stand for? These are our values. This is our vision over here. This is our slogan, and this is our mission. Again, probably this reminds you of what you stand for in terms of your company. But the main thing is, typically, when we showcase these things, we always remind people this is a guide for you. This is your compass. Compass means that when you're making the decisions, you go back to your values, your slogans, your visions, and this is very important because you need to live it. You need to live these values and your visions and slogans. It helps you even in difficult times. And I will mention this in one of the slides. You see how important this is. This is our portfolio of products. We have a wonderful portfolio full of products. We have more than 300 courses, and we have added, believe it or not, because of this crisis, we have added probably around an additional 40 courses. Many of them are VL, but we didn't just sit down and lie around. We, as a matter of fact, we came up with courses. We converted a lot of our content into online learning, so or VL. We also have a couple of courses for online. So visit our website. Always check what's going on. It's a very rich website. And again, you can reach out to us, and we'll talk to you about your development needs. A little bit about myself. I have an interesting background. I don't come from a training background. I come more from a corporate background. I worked for some wonderful companies, and I'm very honored to be working for this wonderful company as well, Meirc Training and Consulting. So I've been blessed to work for companies that have taught me a lot, and at the same time gave me a chance to give back. So working for Pepsi, Sun, Cisco, as well as Meirc has been a very rich experience. And that's what I usually do in my courses. I share my experience and share with you firsthand how we manage to solve things. So if you happen to be in one of my courses, I hope that I don't disappoint. What do we want to do in this program? Well, we want to recognize the importance of leading agile and resilient organization. Of course, that's what we're here. That's why you are here. That's why you signed up for this. The second thing is we like to assess the leadership capabilities. You have to look at your leadership skills for today. What kind of leader are you? And then, of course, you want to develop something around the mechanisms to withstand environmental disruptions. We live in an amazing time. I would say amazing, sometimes disturbing, sometimes opportunistic. But we have to understand this environment that we live in and interact accordingly. What are the strategies to lead and drive agility, agile and resilient organization? And of course, how to execute these strategies that you put in place. So it's a very rich webinar. I hope you like it. I ran this webinar before, but I focused on certain other things. You might see quite a difference when it comes to the slides, and I hope you like the flow of the slides. I remind you that all our courses are supported by blended learning. So whenever you take a course with us, we always support it with some additional courses you can sign up for. And by sending us an email to meirc@meirc.com over here, we send you back the details of those courses. This is only if you are taking a face-to-face or VL course. You might send us an email, and we support our courses with blended learning. Great. So let's go ahead and jump into our webinar. So the first thing we like to talk about defining organizational agility and resilience. And I'm going to be asking you a question, because you see in these webinars, usually I poll you or I ask you questions, first of all, to ensure engagement, but at the same time, to improve our learning. Okay, so here comes the first question. And then agility and resilience are the same, true or false? So here comes the survey. I'm going to show you the survey right now. And what I would like you to do is I would like you to vote. Please go ahead and vote. Agility and resilience are the same. Tell us whether it is false or true. I'll give everybody a chance to send in their vote. Very good. We have some very strong interaction here. I'm very thankful for that. Very good. Well done. Typically, what happens is I give people a chance, but I don't give them too much time because, as I said, we have lots of slides to go through. So, mashallah, the participation is very strong today. So, well done. Thank you. I'll give everybody 5 more seconds just to make sure that, we have the ability to participate. Okay, now I'm going to end the voting. All right, and I'm going to share. So some of you said true, some of you, the majority of you said false. So for those of you who said false, I want to thank you. Well done. Agility and resilience are not the same, but it might be confusing, by the way. As a matter of fact, sometimes people confuse them. So I can understand why you said true, but in reality, they are not the same. So now I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to go back to my slides, and here we go. So the first thing I'm going to tackle in this presentation is the definition of agility. And agility is the ability to change a position efficiently via the integration of isolated movement skills. Yeah, movement, agile movement, using a combination of balance, coordination, speed, reflexes, strength, and endurance. I'm wondering if this definition reminds you of somebody very famous person. He's a sportsman. I wonder if this reminds you of somebody. So this is the agility. This is the agility definition. And then I hear from, let me see. We have a comment that they are not able to see the slides. I'm wondering if. The second definition is resilience. So resilience is defined as the ability to recover from setbacks, adapt well to change, and keep going in the face of adversity. So were you able to think of the sportsman I'm thinking about? Well, I think of Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad Ali, he was a very famous boxer. And he left his impression or a big imprint on the boxing world. But if you remember, if you look back to some of the videos of Muhammad Ali, you will see that he was dancing in the arena. So that's agility. He was dancing around the opponent. So he introduced a different style of boxing. He was like a bee. He says, I am a bee. So he goes and he's trying to, dance around this person. But sometimes when he got knocked down, he stands up and he fights. So dancing around is agility. When he knocked down, getting up again is resilience. And that's what we're talking about here, is your ability to move about and move freely and move fast. But resilience is your ability to recover from setbacks. And all of us, regardless of who you are, we always have setbacks in our life. But coming back is what dictates you. Let me repeat what I said. Ability to come back is what dictates your character. Because some people give up, and that's not good, because, and I'm sure there are certain reasons for people not to come back. I cannot judge anybody why didn't a person come back. But coming back, ability to come back and recover is a very important one when it comes to resilience, building resilience, okay? So, and the same thing with agility. How fast can you recover? How fast can you move? So these two are very important. So this takes us to the definition of agility and resilience from organizational perspective. And all of you work for organizations. So I would like you to close your eyes for a minute and think about your organization. Is your organization agile? Is your organization resilient? So here comes the definition. Organizational agility is the capability of a company to rapidly change and adapt in response to changes in the market. Now, of course, you're wondering, wow, my company reacted very fast when COVID-19 came in, or my company was a bit slow when it came to COVID-19. The same thing for me living in the United Arab Emirates. I tell you, this country has been very rapid when it came to responding to, the COVID-19 situation. And that is why we are managing to open up the market now and slowly but surely get out of it. While other countries, they weren't very rapid. They were not fast enough, and they're still struggling. So this is a perfect example of what we call organizational agility: rapidly change or adapt in response to changes in the market. But when we look at the organizational resilience, the ability of a company to absorb and adapt to climate change, economic crisis, and consumer trends, and other pitfalls that can dramatically affect the way an organization does business and survives. You see the word survive, while continuing to deliver on the objectives it is there to achieve. And that is very powerful. So agility, how fast can you respond? Organization resilience is, can you absorb the hit? And I tell you, and we all felt it and we all saw it, many companies took a tough hit during these 4 months that we've been through, and some of them couldn't survive. for many obvious reasons. But some of them, because of the agility, they managed to survive. They managed to change their business model a little bit. They managed to do something different. And I like that a lot. And that's what I like you to do. I want you to develop these two things in your life going forward. It's important that you're agile, and it's important that you are resilient. It's a mindset. I tell you, it's a mindset. Okay? So, that being said, we are talking about new norms. So, definitely, COVID 19 or the different crises that we saw before in our life has, in many ways, has impacted the norms that we live in. And the norms that we see, I classify them into pace, disruption, and turbulence. Okay? What do I mean by that? One thing for sure is that one of the key terms that probably you've heard of, but you haven't heard of a lot, is VUCA. VUCA stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And according to the US Army, when the US Army, started dealing with the new world, they said, you know what, we live in a VUCA world. What does it mean? That the world around us is very volatile, it's changing a lot. Uncertainty, we don't know what's going to happen next. Complexity, it's very, very complex. Technology, innovation, and what have you. Ambiguous, I can't see clearly what's going on. So, and that's reality. I mean, if you come to think, ask any person, he said, I wasn't expecting COVID-19 to become like this. This is, in very many ways, ambiguous volatility. COVID-19 you can easily apply these four elements to COVID-19. And it was so fast. And I am confident that all of you, including myself, have been through some interesting times in the past 4 months. Some of us had mental fatigue, some of us had physical fatigue. It hasn't been easy at all. Some of us went through some financial situation that hasn't been easy. Of course, we've never been through an experience like this in our life. Yes, we have been through World War One, World War Two, and other wars in our lives. We've heard about it. We have seen also many uprisings in our region as well. But this is different. This is different. Thank goodness there's no destruction, but there has been lots of stress that we have been going through. Now, when we talk about VUCA, what do we talk about? We talk about, emerging market growing, innovation, climate change, lots of mergers and acquisitions. Probably in your country, you have lots of banks joining forces together, lots of institutions joining forces, one company buying another, even customer loyalty. You, as customers, you are not anymore clinging to a certain brand. You want to change here and there. So customer loyalty is also a big challenge for many companies. And of course, consolidation and restructuring. So you can see the VUCA world is a reality that we're going through. And that is why this VUCA world is pushing the faster pace, is putting lots of intense disruptions, and is causing continuous turbulence. And that's not easy. So I like to ask you a question here. If we used to live in a kind of a stable environment, you build your house or you build your car or you build your airplane based on a stable environment, and all of a sudden everything has changed. Don't you think that the new situation merits a rethinking of your structure, of your skeleton, of your abilities, of your skills? Of course, because what you put up together to handle a stable environment is not the same as putting something together for a faster pace, intense disruptions, and continuous turbulence. You have to rethink your organizational structure. So, here's a very interesting chart. We know that innovation and technology, they themselves have been contributing to the pace of things. We know that. This is a fact. And many traditional industries, they needed to rethink their business process in order to survive. So you have the brick and mortar companies, they were not much into kind of technology like computers and everything. But because technology and innovation came into our life, these companies that did not adapt, they disappear. And now with COVID-19, we're seeing this. So let me give you an example about this wonderful slide that you have in front of you. Let's take it from 1930 all the way to 2020. So 1930, you have the automobile, which got rid of the horse. The horse was everything for everybody. Somebody who had a horse in his house, They say that he's a rich man or a rich lady. But with the automobile, the horse kind of disappeared. The same thing with PC. And of course, you know, this gap over here in the middle, you have the wars and everything. But I only talk from business perspective. I like to focus more on the business. And then PCs came in. Okay. So lots of things change on how we do things. And then the internet came in. And then how we access information. E-commerce came in. And then how we do retail banking. Social media came in. How do we advertise? All of these, look, all of these disruptions. And most of them are from the 1980 all the way to 2020. So in the past 40 years, we have seen so much amount of disruptions, including the latest one, COVID-19. So we had artificial intelligence in 2018, 2019 coming out in a big way, but COVID-19, I tell you, the disruption is so big. It stopped so many industries, aviation, hotels, and everything. And I'm sure that some of you are working for these industries or you're aware of these industries. So it hasn't been easy. So one thing for sure, the pace has increased, the disruptions has become stronger, and the turbulence is quite turbulent these days. So I recommend that you rethink your organization. Why? Because major disruptions always occurred, but now they are more frequent, they are more intense, and the distance between the disruptions is much shorter. So you rest a little bit, and then all of a sudden, the next, crisis is coming along. So who knows what's going to come after COVID-19? Can anybody tell me? I'm confident you're wondering what's next for us, because lots of things are changing in our life. And this COVID-19 has changed many things for us, including your behavior. Come to think of it, staying at home for 3 to 4 months, doing something new, your behavior has changed. So now probably cash will disappear. The word cash will probably disappear. Why? Because you will pay using a card or electronic currency. So it's amazing what we're going through. So the first thing is that the disruptions used to happen in a smaller scale. Now they're happening on a much bigger scale. You know, they're very, very big, and they are impacting us in a dramatic way. That being said, this means that when in light of these disruptions and the pace of things and the turbulence, you have to redesign your company. You have to redesign your organization so that it can withstand, you know, the new realities we're going through. But I would like to ask a question here. Who runs these companies? Who is manning these companies? It is you. You see, the story goes back to you, the employee, the resource. So the company is a conglomeration of people working for it. So you have to change yourselves. You have to change your mindset. You have to change your skill. You have to change so many things you have to revisit and try to become better so that you can live through these turbulences and disruptions and pace and the fast pace that we're going through. So that is very important. And I like you to think about yourself, or if you have a company, think about your company, how to make it better, more resilient and more agile. Now, that will take us to the next section. I'd like to talk about agility and resilience versus rigidity and fragility. In this particular section, I'll be doing some comparison. Okay, and I call it in many ways paradigm shift because we are actually going through a paradigm shift. But before I do that, how about if I ask you a question? Here comes the question. In times of crisis, a mechanistic organization is better than a resilient and agile organization. True or false? So let me do the survey. And now I'm gonna, all right. So I need to close this one. Yeah, I need to go to the survey and question number 2. Are you ready? Here we go. Yalla. In times of crisis, a mechanistic organization is better than a resilient and agile organization. Let's see. I have some answers coming in. Well done. Well done. Beautiful. I'll give everybody another 10 seconds. I just want to be fair so that you can participate and share your input. Okay. I'm sure some of you are looking for the button to answer. So there you go. Well done. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. That's great. So now, let me give everybody 5 more seconds and the voting so that we get the chance to. All right. So I'm going to end the voting right now. I'm going to share the results with you. So some of you said true, some of you said false. But in reality, in times of crisis, it's important to be resilient and agile. And I will tell you what mechanistic is. And I will tell you that mechanistic organization probably is something we have to be very careful with. So well done to both of you for answering. And thank you for those who said false. Okay, so I'm going to say close. Now I'm going to go back to my presentation and take it from there. Now, I would like you to pay attention for these particular slides. As I said, it's a paradigm shift. What is a paradigm? A paradigm is a view of the world which will endure until it cannot explain new evidence. Isn't that powerful? I think it's extremely, extremely powerful. The paradigm must then shift to include that new information. So you live your life knowing things in a certain way, and then all of a sudden something appears and you cannot explain it. You have to change your view of things in order to explain it. Wow. Now that's very interesting. Can you think of something similar to that? COVID-19. Just we are still going through it. We couldn't explain COVID-19. I said, man, that's ridiculous. So we had to change our paradigm in order to cope with it. We have to learn so many new things in order to explain it and live with it. Isn't that powerful? And sometimes it happens to you personally as a person. Something happens in your life that changes your view of things. We call it the paradigm shift. And sometimes it happens to us all as humanity, like the COVID-19. So we are now seeing a paradigm shift in the ways organizations balance stability and dynamism. What does it mean? Some companies, they love stability because stability gives them, concrete things. I know I'm going to deliver this number by end of quarter 3. But what's happening with forecasting these days? What's happening with planning? My goodness. It's like if you're talking about an art that's becoming obsolete in kind of way. But nonetheless, we still have to plan and we still have to forecast, even though we are living in very turbulent, fast-paced, and disruptive times. So, what is a mechanistic organization? Many of you most probably work for a mechanistic organization. It's known as bureaucratic. It's based on formal and centralized networking. Formal, huh? Be careful, formal. It has a rigid and tightly controlled structure. Did you see that? It's very tight, rigid, and has high specialization, narrow span of control, high formalization, and limited information network. Now, you might say, but Jamal, this is the extreme. Yes, this could be the extreme, and many companies are still here in this mechanistic organization mindset, unfortunately. Now, the other thing is the old paradigm about mechanistic structure is that it's best suited for companies that operate in a stable and certain environment. In general, a mechanistic structure is easy to maintain and rarely needs to be changed. So when things are great, why do I need to change? How many times did it happen to you? You walk over to your boss and say, boss, how about if we introduce this? He says, why do we need to introduce it? The other thing is working fine. If that person answers that way, this person is mechanistic. And it happens quite a bit. I was a manager and I had managers, and I tell you, I know. Now, that being said, look at the following. In light of the disruptions, because the disruptions are challenging the old paradigm, the old mechanistic or stable organization, the environment is evolving very quickly. There's always introductions of disruptive technology. The digitalization is accelerating things, and democratization of information, of course. And we have a new war for talent. Did you notice that? I tell you one thing. If you update your CV, if you learn new things, if you acquire new knowledge, the latest ones, people want you. People want you. They want you to come to them because these companies, they cannot cope with all the change. So they go out and they say, can you join us? Because they don't know how to do AI, artificial intelligence. They don't know how to code. They don't know how to sell online. You see? So that is why there's a new talent on war. So my advice to you, always update your knowledge. Always update your talent. Don't sell yourself short, my dear friend. And if you like us to be part of that, please do so. We'll be more than happy to help you in that area. Now, here comes what I would like you to look at very carefully. It's called the dynamic organization. Dynamic organizations are agile and resilient. They are known as living, organic, or dynamic organization. It has the ability to quickly, notice, quickly reconfigure strategy. But Jamal, just a minute back, you said, should we get rid of planning and forecasting? Not at all. You see, the thing about it is that when you have a dynamic organization, you have to become faster at your strategy, putting strategy faster, changing your structure faster, applying your new processes much, much faster, training your people on new technologies. All of that will lead toward creating and value protecting opportunities. So this means that this is the new paradigm, ladies and gentlemen. This is the new paradigm. A dynamic structure adds velocity, adaptability to the stability. So you say, but wait a second, Jamal. Stability, I thought stability is on the mechanistic side. Yes, despite the mechanistic, that was ultra stable. So even though we are asking you to be dynamic, there are certain lapses or phases where you have to be stable a little bit, but you always have to continuously change and adapt. And this means that you have to create a critical source of competitive advantage in a VUCA world. Remember VUCA, what I talked about? The VUCA world. So here comes some new slides for you. I'd like you to think about it. And I would like you to pay attention. Here comes the rigidity of the mechanistic organization. What does it mean, rigid? Formal rules and regulation and policies, right? Communications usually flows downward, right? Central command, usually decision is taken by the big boss. Clear chain of command. Oh, I know that if I need to get something done, I need to go to this person, to that person. So clear chain of command. Highly specialized task, as I said before. Rigid departmentalization. Sometimes you call them silos. Everybody working on their own. And sometimes narrow span of control. And of course, high formalization. Very formal. But that rigidity, you see that rigidity, that word over there, the rigidity, that itself is a fragility, fragile. Why? Because when you have formal rules and regulations, static cultures is difficult to change. Did you see that? When you have so much formal rules, the culture does not change. When communications flows downward, nobody listens to feedback. When the command is central, decisions are slow. When the clear chain of command leads to bureaucracy, I cannot do something without him or her approving. When you have highly specialized tasks, limited creativity. When you have rigid departmentalization, the breakdown in communication, that's dangerous. When you have narrow spans of control, lack of empowerment. When you have formality, you have bureaucracy. Did you see why mechanistic environment is very fragile in a fast moving environment? That is why what you see around you, many companies that are moving out, they are declaring bankruptcy, they are shutting down. These are the ones that maybe, to some extent, maybe they have this kind of mechanistic organization. How about if we think about it differently? How about if we become more dynamic? Here you go. If you become more dynamic, your strategy, you have a higher purpose. So this means that you can change your strategy with the aim of maintaining a high purpose. Technology, you digitize so that you stay at the cutting edge of things. People, you engage with passion. Process, you let people know how to change the process so that they are more agile. Structure, more collaboration than working on your own. My dear friends, today we need to work as teams. It's very important. The teamwork, collaboration is very important. So as you can see from this particular slide, that in difficult times, in crisis times, you need this kind of organization, you need the dynamic organization, because this is very, very vital. At the same time, this means that a resilient organization, you need leadership and culture, networks and relationships. You have to be change ready. You have to be reliable, and you have to be adaptive capacity. Did you remember the stability? This is where we see some stability. In the previous slide, in this particular slide, we talked about the dynamic. But in this one, you have some stability. Did you see that? So being dynamic has to become the stable thing for you, to change continuously. It's being uh, continuous, becoming a new norm for you. So that is why, my dear friend, this is how companies have changed. Now, you have companies that were mechanistic. Remember the mechanistic? Some of them evolved and they reduced some bureaucracy. Some of them evolved and they become more entrepreneurial. But if you really like to take full advantage of being resilient and agile, you have to be here. This is the quadrant where you have to be in. This is a good place because it's transition. And this is also a good place because it is transition. But this is where you can take full advantage of crisis when they come in, of change when it's come in, because you are able to cope with all these changes. Isn't that interesting? I think it's extremely, extremely powerful. Okay? So here are some comparison for you. So for you, if you would like to remember what's the difference from a technology, nature of work, workforce, management, culture, communication, structure, I put some definitions of some differences for you. For example, the mechanistic workplace is more mechanical, but the dynamic workplace is more digital. The mechanistic is structured, localized, while the dynamic workplace is flexible and virtual. The mechanistic workplace is loyal employees, homogeneous. Dynamic workplace is empowered and diverse. Mechanistic workplace is high formalization, clear chain of command, rigid departmentalization, centralization, while the dynamic place is low formalization, free flow of information, cross-hierarchical teams, decentralization, and cross-functional teams, high collaboration over here. So you see, when you have an organization that's more dynamic, you can live with the change. You can take advantage of the change. This takes us to the following. What is the importance of adaptive capacity? And I'm going to ask you a question. Are you ready? Here we go. So here comes the question. Adaptive capacity is another big word to sell consultancy services. Oh my goodness. So here we go. Number 3. And let's see. Are you ready? Please answer the question. Adaptive capacity is another big word to sell consultancy. Very good. Very good. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for your participation. Much, much appreciated. How about if I give you another 10 seconds just to make sure that everybody's participating? I don't, and because we have a few more slides to go through. We're almost halfway, which is good. So we are well timed, hopefully to finish on time. All right. So I'm going to end the voting in 5 seconds. All right. So I'm going to end the voting. I'm going to show you the results. And it's very funny. You probably will laugh because the results have shown us here that there's a tie over here. So some of you actually believe it's a big word to sell consultancy. And some of you think, no, it actually exists. Well, both of you are right to some extent. Somebody will come to you and says, listen, have you heard of adaptive capacity? And they will try to sell you the concept. But I tell you, I looked up adaptive capacity and I fell in love with it. Let me explain to you what adaptive capacity is. So it could be a big word, but it is false. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to close this one. I'm going to now go into the presentation. So this is what adaptive capacity is. Look at this. Now, I was doing the research for this course and I fell into this beautiful chart. This is the life that we go through, organizations, individuals, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So now what we're going through, many of us are reorganization right now because we went through COVID-19. Did you see reorganization over here? Because of this reorganizations, many of us will exit. They say, no, 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 I don't want anything to do with this. I'm not gonna succeed. Some of us reorganize and they start exploring a new reality. This exploration might take a year or 2 years, and then we go into an era where we are stable. We conserve our energy. We are good at what we do now because we have developed a new norm. However, what happens if a new crisis comes in? Did you see that one? A new crisis comes in, so we have to release some of our old norms, our habits, and start working on reorganization. And this circle is ongoing. And that's what I call adaptive capacity. It calls the periodic rhythmic dance. It is a dance. It is a dance, beautiful, between order and chaos. So before the COVID-19, we had order. And because of COVID-19, we had chaos. And now we are trying to transform ourselves to get out of the chaos, come up with a new norm. Probably we will stay in it for another 5, 6 years until we see the new crisis again. Could be another COVID-19. I hope not. Could be something else. But did you see that dance? It's beautiful. It's called the adaptive capacity. I love it. And you go through it yourself. You go through these things almost on a regular basis. And sometimes you discover something new, you develop new habits, and then throughout your life, you get let go of some old habits, you develop new habits, and you are always rediscovering yourself. So this is what we call adaptive capacity. So we go now to resilience engineering. So you need to engineer resilience in your organization. Why do you do that? Also, when I was doing the research for this course, I fell in love with this concept, resilience engineering. It is a systematic view. From a systematic view, it is the intrinsic ability of a system to adjust its functioning prior to, during, or following changes and disturbances, so that it can sustain required operation. Remember, sustain, to survive. So resilience engineering is a design methodology. It's actually a methodology that exists there, and I recommend highly that you read more about it, with the objective of managing risk, not by reducing it, but by enhancing the ability to suppress system performance variability under changes to services uncertainty. So let me explain for you. You have cultural resources. Did you see that one? You have cultural resources right over here. You have structural resources. But did you see the learning organization? That learning organization, if it cannot adapt, it's not doing anything. You are learning, but you are stable. So actually, you're getting old by sitting there. The reason you learn is to create, is to come up with new ideas, to become resilient. But there are 4 key elements for you to do that. Are you ready for that? Let me show you what they are. When you are a learning organization, the reason we tell you you have to become learning so that become more resilient, so that you can anticipate better. You anticipate issues, concerns, challenges, crises. You monitor better. You monitor the risks that are taking place in the workplace, in the market, in the workplace. You monitor. You learn new things, and then you respond. This is very important that you have in mind. That's why we ask you to learn. You learn so that you become better at anticipating things. You monitor things better. This means that your radars are working very well. So instead of seeing something tomorrow, you can see it maybe 5 months before, and you can adjust accordingly. You can learn new skills, and then you respond accordingly. This is very, very critical. This is what you need to focus on today. So that being said, what do we mean by anticipation? It's getting ready for long-term threats and changes. This means that your radars have to look into the future and say, what could happen next? Monitoring. Is your system keeping an eye on what's going on? Do you have lots of fluctuations? Are there any threats that you have to be aware of? You know, there are so many threats out there. Enough Enough the amount of malware and people who are trying to steal your money these days. As a matter of fact, I was listening to the radio this morning, and the UAE government said, guys, be careful of people trying to fleece you or take your money because there are so many scams out there. Yes, these are sad times, difficult times, but there are people who will take advantage of you. Responding, how you take action, and learning, how to learn something new so that you can learn new competencies and let go of the bad ones so that you can learn from the consequences you're going through. So this is very important. So in light of that, you have to lead. It's very important you start leading. Could be on the individual level or could be on the organizational level. And this is a clear message that usually I focus a lot on the leadership of a person organization. Why this is important? This is a new competency. So what's a competency? Notice, you probably know from people who engage with me quite often, you know what a competency is. A competency refers to a cluster, knowledge, skills, and abilities. So this is very, very important. And of course, other characteristics. So the KSA, knowledge, skills, and ability, is critical for you as a competency. And competencies simplify the process of tying concrete examples of performance together and making sure that the organization has the positive attitude to be able to withstand the impact of change. So when you develop the competency behind or the ability to be able to cope with the change, that's a competency. So when some people tell me, I have financial skills competency, good for you, but your financial skills are not good for you if they become outdated. So another competency you have to develop is change competency, adaptability. You have to keep up with your knowledge and your skills so that you are a financial analyst today using certain tools, but tomorrow when new tools come up, you can also be a financial leader or financial analyst who is using different tools. So this is an interesting map. Look at this. We have been through a journey when it comes to leadership. We used to be authoritative, and that was in the 1930s. Remember the automobile and the horse and everything? Remember the industrial revolution? It was very authoritative, commanding. But as we moved into the 70s and the 80s, it became more advisory. So people start asking people or telling people what they're doing, advisory. As we moved into the 90s, the word consultative became very big. So when I was working for Sun Microsystems and Cisco, consultation. And then you have the collaborative, working together. And this became a very big thing because of the social media, right? Remember Facebook, remember LinkedIn, all about collaboration. But now, in light of the disruption and the pace and the transformation we're going through, you have to adapt. This is the new competency you have to focus on, adaptability. Doesn't mean that you can ignore the other ones. Notice, sometimes you have to do a collaboration approach, consultative approach, advisory, but the most important one today is the adaptive. You have to be an adaptive person, adaptive leader. This means that you have to know how to share power. You have to share information differently. You have to solve problems differently. You have to handle your rules and regulations differently. You have to become more agile. You have to become more resilient. You have to become more adaptable. So leadership and management styles, they are evolving, and they're evolving toward the adaptability where each one of these areas is taking on a different form. Resource allocation. Remember 3 months back, you always drove from your home all the way to the work and then came back. How many of you have worked from home lately? That's adaptability. Even resource allocation has changed for us. Idea generation. Your manager always told you, listen, I want you to do this way. Now, if you go to your manager, he or she will ask you, what do you think? What should we do? They're asking you to become innovative and creative in the workplace. Communication and relationship management. This is also something very important. So as you can see, all of these things are changing very, very fast. And this requires adaptability on the leadership style, whether personal or organizational. So this takes us to the following topic here, the implication of agility and resilience on leadership. How does this impact leadership? Well, in many ways, now leadership is more distributed. We have to think of alternatives now more than before, because in light of everything that's taking place, we have to become more strategic in terms of reviewing our strategy. How do we hire people to become more mindful, become more transparent on information? You know, in many cases, your company will tell you, listen, this is what we're going through. It's a very difficult time. We need your help. They're trying to be transparent with you. But some other companies, they said, sorry, we can't keep you. You have to go. They didn't tell you, they surprised you. So here's a company that's trying to work with you. They're telling you we're going through some tough times. Can you take a salary cut? Can you do this? Can you do that? They don't want to fire you. They want to keep you. Another company says, sorry, we can't do anything. That's what we call in many ways transparency. Permission to fail. In many jobs that you work for, you're not allowed to fail. But today, if we don't fail, we don't learn, and so on and so forth. So as you can see, the implications of agility and resilience is very, very big. For you to be like that, you have to be an agile and resilient leadership. You have to rethink these areas. This means that you have to become a learning organization. You have to make sure that you become learning agility, learn all the time, adapt, experiment, examine problems in a unique way. Skilled employees who can work with diverse types of people. You cannot hire somebody who says, no, I cannot work in teams. You have to work in teams today. So as you can see, this wonderful chart says it all, is that learning agility is something very important today. Now, so you have to anticipate disruptions before damage occurs. And this is something very important. So this means that you have to keep your eye on the future and say, you know what, what's happening? What are the signals that are taking place? Because sometimes you can make money on the downs and sometimes you make money on the ups. So you have to take advantage of both swings. So how can business leaders better discern nascent trends? This means that upcoming or ongoing. And how can they use these insights to adapt their organizations? Now, according to KPMG, one of the famous consulting firms, there are 3 key steps to help in anticipating disruption. The first one is take on an outside approach. Take on an outside-in approach. This means that don't only think internally, look into the outside and see what's happening. Number 2, translate signals to action. Oh my goodness. This is the one that I really, really treasure, because you have to act. Third, pressure test your decisions. This means that every now and then, to go through a pressure test. Are we making the right thing? What's going on here? So this is very, very vital. And KPMG as a consulting firm, they are reputable for helping us out sometimes, coming up with some interesting concepts. And this is one that I really like and I would like you to think about. So, resilient and agile organizations are well prepared for change. Regardless of the type of magnitude of transformation they are facing, one of the ultimate goals is to prepare the company for long-term strength and agility. And this is one of the key functions of leadership and management for the 21st century. And I tell you one thing, if you did not get it through this COVID-19, let's talk about it. The COVID-19 has opened our eyes on how important to be a resilient and agile organization. So, resilient and agile organizations last longer and they navigate difficulties better. They are well prepared and yes, they are disciplined. They are disciplined. They know the discipline of change. They change very quickly. Discipline doesn't mean that you do the same thing over and over again. Discipline today means that you can switch over very quickly to something different so that you can survive. So you embrace change. That's the name of the game. So, how about a question? Let's talk about cultures because we're kind of wrapping up right now. So, here comes the question. It is not easy changing a company's organizational culture, true or false? So here comes the survey. This is number 4. Are you ready? Go for it. Yeah. It's not easy changing a company's organization culture. Let's see. We have some very strong participation. Well done, you guys. I'm so proud of you. This is beautiful. Wow. All right. I want to thank you for all your interaction. Well done. I'm going to give you 5 more seconds. I just want to be fair to everybody so that they have managed to participate and give their input. All right? So, all right, let me share the voting. So I see the majority said true. It is not easy. We have one vote saying false. Well, I hope that you've been through change and you did it the right way and the easy way. In general, and in majority of the cases, it's not easy. It's not easy. And it can be quite stressing. It can be quite disrupting, and it can be, quite demanding. But if you have the right skills, the right people, I tell you, you can do it. I have been through it, and I tell you, some of them were difficult, but I managed to survive. My company managed to survive. It's not easy, but you can do it. So I'm going to share with you the results here. There you are. Very good. Well done. So all of you. Now I'm going to close this view. I'm going to go back to my slide and start navigating toward the end. We're getting toward the end of the terminal. So here we go, my dear friends. What's a culture? Culture is the environment that surrounds you at work all of the time. Culture is a powerful element that shapes your work enjoyment, your work relationships, and your work processes. You see how powerful culture is? This is amazing. So a culture changing to an agile and resilient culture from an existing, possibly traditional culture that you may have, it's not going to be easy. The existing organizational culture was formed over years, could be 40 years, 50 years. Meirc is more than 60 years old. If I want to change Meirc, it's not going to change overnight. However, changing the accepted organizational culture sometimes can feel like rolling rocks uphill. But I like what Arthur Karmatzi said in his little anecdote over here. Look what he said. He said, changing organizational culture is much like baking a cake. You can have all the ingredients, but nothing happens till we put them in the oven. And that's what happens. You may have everything, but if you don't take action to change, the cake is not gonna come out. So make sure that you take initiative and start changing. Arthur Karmatzi, I like it quite a bit. That being said, when people in an organization realize and recognize that their current culture needs to transform and to support the organization's success, this means that change will occur. So this is a very important one. People are saying, listen, let's change, let's do that. That's a good sign. This means that people are willing to change, to take advantage of it. However, change is not pretty. So sometimes we will have some victims. Sometimes, things may be messy. But the good news is, I tell you this one. Pay attention to this one. Organizational culture change is possible, but it requires understanding, commitment, times, and tools. So there has to be some investment. And one more thing I like to add to this. If you do it right, the return is so big. The return is amazing. You can make folds and folds over what you did before. Simply because you changed. Yes, simply because you managed to change and adapt. So there are 3 major steps when you are changing an organization culture. Let me share it with you. First, understand your current culture. Second, decide where it wants to go. Put the future, the vision, the goals. And third, decide to change the behavior. Did you see the third one? Look at the third one. It's behavior. And I always tell my attendees, my participants, that the world of leadership and management is all about behavior. So that's true. When you are changing, you have to change also the behavior. It's not only the processes, you have to change other things. Okay, so rethinking and redesigning your business. This means that we have to rethink and redesign our business model. And I shared with you the mechanistic versus the dynamic, but you have to become a regular as your model has to become, changing your culture has to become something normal in your life. And why? Because the market keeps bringing new things. So you have to keep an eye on the market, change your operations, cope with emerging technologies. Of course, this is something very normal. And if you're not doing it, you're going to have a tough time. So here is something important. Remember, in this definition, I talked about 2 key things, rethinking and redesigning. These are 2 big words. Rethinking means defining your purpose, taking mega trends, into consideration, understanding the current situation, co-creating solutions. Did you see the co-creating solutions? Don't do it alone. Building the business case and getting the inspiration. But what is redesigning? Aha! Redesigning means you automate, you orchestrate, you co-opt customers, you sell directly, use simple technology, you scale up and roll out internationally. Of course. So, that being said, the journey to an agile and resilient organization requires some strong leadership and means that you have to create the right team. You have to have a proper team in place because at the end of the day, teamwork can help. And that's what we call active leadership, means that you provide a higher purpose, you decide on the operating model, you find the management rhythm, but you have to model behavior. This means that you have to exercise self-awareness. You have to open channels of dialogue. You have to exercise accountability. Of course, this means that how well is your message coming across? You see, when you are changing to an agile and resilient organization, you have to have a message. And that message needs to be communicated internally in a very, very big way. Because if you don't live the message, people will not believe you. I'm going to repeat that again. If you don't live the communication message about resilience and adaptability and agility, people will not believe it. So company's culture can give your organization a major strategic advantage in these changing times. So use the culture to communicate and tell people how you are changing. And what your culture consists of, goals, values, you are rethinking it. You have to rethink it. You have to redesign it so that employees believe in the change that's coming up. Are you ready for the last question? Here we go. So we're talking about aligning people, process, and technology. So here comes the question. People, process, and technology need to intersect to get aligned. True or false? Here comes the question, our last question for today. And please go ahead and start voting. I wish you all the best. People, process, and technology need to intersect to get aligned. Very good, very good. Well done to all of you. I'm going to give everybody 5 more seconds just to be fair, and I'm going to share with you the answers. So I'm going to now end the voting. So thank you all for hanging in there and participating. I'm going to share the results. All of you said true, and well done. Well done to all of you. This is wonderful. So you managed to keep the best answer to the last. That's great. So I'm going to close now. I'm going to go back to my presentation. The next slide says it all. Look at this. Today, if you want to make sure that you have an agile and resilient organization, you have to hit the sweet spot. You see the sweet spot right over there, right in the middle. What is the sweet spot? The sweet spot is the intersection between technology, process, and people. And notice what happens. If you only achieve technology and process, you will get alienation. People will not like it. If you get process and people will be frustrated. Says, listen, I don't know what I'm doing here. If you get people and technology, you will get automated chaos. That is why when you are building an agile and resilient organization, you have to hit all three and right in the middle, the sweet spot. You need that agile and resilient organizations aim for the sweet spot. You have to aim for the sweet spot. Aiming there will avoid the alienation, the frustration, automated chaos. Again, building an agile and resilient organization is not easy, but it is our salvation. Through it, we become better for the future. And to do it, hit the sweet spot. And I wanted to leave you with that because at the end of the day, we need to compensate resilience, right? We need to compensate agility. You see, when you are building your agility and resilience, this means that I have to compensate you for new behavior. So this is something very critical, you guys. If you want me to change the behavior, pay me for it. And that is one of the incentives as well. Because if I keep paying you for the old habits, you're not going to change. Say, wait a second, tomorrow when things pass, I'm going to go back to my old ways. No. I have to compensate, change my compensation system to pay you for the new things you have adapted. This means that you have to become more entrepreneurial. You have to come up with new ideas. You have to be innovative. You have to be creative. And it has to be part of your productivity. Because traditional organizations did not adapt because they were not creative. So, employee, look, this is by Emma Bridger. Very beautiful. Look at this. Employee engagement is the extent to which people are personally involved in the success of the business. So I'd like to ask you a question. Are you involved? This is what we call employee engagement. Are you making decisions? That's what we call employee empowerment. So an engaged employee are happy employees. They give back, they participate. They're not afraid of being agile and resilient. They take chances, they take risks. They make mistakes without being afraid of, reprimanded or being penalized. So to further drive this point further, to drive it further, engaged employees also share some common characteristics. And I hope and I'm confident that those listening to me today, that you have these things. You are self-guided. This means that you manage yourself. You have well-defined roles. You know what you're doing. And you can change your role, by the way. Understand their contribution to the organization. You know how what you are working on is impacting the organization. You invest in your personal development. You have to invest in your personal development. Don't sell yourself short. And you stay connected with your team and the large organization. Build relationships. It's wonderful to build relationships. With change becoming a normal business reality, enjoying action-oriented mindset and being resourceful can help tremendously. So, because we're becoming more agile and resilient, make sure that you're always action-oriented and you're always resourceful. This means that you find your way around. This means that you have to develop resourcefulness by keeping an open mind, being confident, being creative, being proactive, being persistent, and being positive. You see these 6 characteristics, this is what we need today. So, today's business environment, managers are exposed to so many things, levels of stress. And of course, some of them, you are manager and you're dealing with the stress in the workplace. Some of you are working for a manager who's feeling all the stress, but you need some soft skills. I tell you, you have to work on the managers today. If you really want to develop an agile and resilient organization, we start with the managers because these are the ones who are talking to the people. So we want to, first of all, tell the managers how to deal with highly stressful and traumatic circumstances, similar to what we went through with COVID-19. How to, manage several stressful events at the same time. How to experience stress over a long period of time. Man, I mean, we just lived 3 months of toughness. I mean, COVID-19 used to come once a day, 2 times a day. I have a flu, I have this, I have that. But 3, 4 months, man, that is a long period of time. Lack of control. I tell you, we have to teach our manager how to work with not too much control. They have to let go sometimes. Example, you're working from home. He cannot see you, she cannot see you. What is this person doing at home? So they cannot visit you at home because they're used to visiting you at the office. At the office, they have full control. At home, they don't have control. You see how things are changing? So we have to teach our managers new ways of doing things, and lack of social support. They have to be on their own in many ways. So when we examine attitude, I would like you to remember, that you have to embrace certain things. How we act, how we feel, and how we think. You have to think about your behavior. You have to think about your emotional resilience. Remember, resilience is very important, but emotional resilience. And the last one is mental toughness. And this has been tested over the past 4 months. There are so many webinars and seminars and sessions and meetings and papers about the mental state we went through over the past 4 months. It has been draining. And some scientists and some experts will tell you this may last us for a long period of time. I hope not. So Developing emotional resilience for managers, if you are a manager, or for employees, means that you have to develop this inner buoyancy. You have to become more supportive. You have to apply it. You have to build connections. You have to self-regulate, and you have to be positive in life habits like exercise, eat well. All of these things have to be very supportive. There's the agility resilience scorecard. This is something how to measure your resilience and agility in the workplace. When we talk about the agility, notice in the strategy perspective, you have how you measure. Do you have a shared purpose? Are you sensing and seizing the opportunities? Are you flexible? These are all measures. If you are going toward agility and resilience, you have to measure it. Leadership and culture, on the resilience side, how do you measure it? The style of leadership, the situation awareness, innovation, staff engagement. On the agility indicator structure, do you have a flat organization? Do you have accountability, clear accountability? You have active partnerships? You have open physical and virtual environment? On the network and relationship side, from a resilience perspective, do you have effective partnership? You have internal resources? You have leverage? Are you leveraging your knowledge? You see, all of these things you can measure. So here you can measure your scorecard. This is your scorecard. And this is another one. This is another slide. Process from agility perspective. Do you launch processes fast enough? Do you have a standardized way of working, but you can change it? Performance orientation, continuous learning. People on the agility side, do you have a cohesive community that stands with each other, supports each other? Do you have shared and servant leadership? On the technology, do you have an evolving technology? Are you working with the next generation of technology? On the resilience side, are you change ready? Are you adaptive capacity? Are you reliable? And these are the measures right over here. So again, these slides are available. You can, go through them. And of course, if you have any extra questions, do so. Do send them across, because I have come toward the end of my presentation, and I want to thank you for your active participation. You guys have been phenomenal. Wow. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Here are some references that you can read on. The Agile Organization, How to Build and Engage an Innovative and Resilient Business by Linda Holbish. And then, of course, the Agile Enterprise, Building and Running Agile Organization by Mario Moreira. Agility Shift, Creating Agile and Effective Leaders by Pamela Meirc. And then I have another set of presentation, how to build a resilient organization. The world famous San Diego Zoo way hardcover. The word is called Roar. It's by Sandy Ash and Tim Mulligan, and so on and so forth. So all of these books are available for you. If you like to send, if you like a copy of this presentation, I'll send it to you via PDF, and I will type my email in the, here you go. This is my email in the chat at meirc.com. You can, there you go. So thank you so much. You can copy my email and then send me an email asking for the presentation. I'll send it in PDF format, and have a wonderful weekend. Stay strong, work on your mindset, and I hope to see you in future webinars. God bless, and keep working. Things are getting better. All the best, and take care.
Meirc.com